Good evening, everybody. This is Laird, VE3LKS, and I'd like to welcome you to the COVID-19 Rag Chew, week 12, and thank goodness it's Friday. At this time, I will take a standby, make sure my cursor's on the right spot of my spreadsheet, and I am ready to take check-ins. So at your leisure, send me your call sign.
VA3 RTV and VA3 BTQ. Hey? Yeah, it's Jackie's birthday today, so she's with us now in the gazebo. Thanks so much.
Victor Echo 3, Papa Whiskey Juliet. VE3HIX.
Victor Alpha 3 Delta Charlie Echo.
Victor Echo 3 Kilowatt Zulu Tango.
VE3 IRB.
VE3 Victor Golf Juliet.
I always like that little bloop. It's like a water droplet sound on Joe's signal when he's coming in from the cottage.
VE3 RPS.
Okay, man, that was almost civilized tonight. Very good. Let's see. We have VA3 RTV Jeffrey in the gazebo, along with VA3 BTQ Jackie. Happy birthday, Jackie. Also in the gazebo. And let's see. VE3 PWJ Peter, VE3 HIX Bob, VA3 DCE Doug, VE3 KZT John, VE3 IRB Robert, VE3 VGJ Joe with that little water droplet sound that happens when he comes in, and VE3 RPN Scott. On YouTube, we've got, that's what we actually called my son when he was born. Anyways, and you're far from that. You're more like the Princess Leia. Let's see, who else do we have? Oh, and Alex. We have Darren there and Alex as well. So hopefully they'll be able to get in on the radio tonight. But if not, welcome everybody. And with that, I'll just stand by for anyone else who wants to check in. Okay, nothing heard. So we will go back up to the top to Jeffrey, VA3 RTV. And the topic of the evening, as suggested by Joe, VE3 VGJ, is what interesting interactions have you had with the public when working a ham radio event? So whether you were, like, say you were at Paul's Dirty Enduro or Ride for the United Way, and you had some sort of interaction with the public, or field day, whatever. Do you have any of those? And if not, just give us an interesting time that you've had in ham radio. So take it away, Jeffrey.
Good evening, Laird, and everybody else. And as I say, it's Jackie's birthday, and she's sitting 6 feet away from me. And of course, Lois is in the gazebo as well. And just one of the interesting things I remember was I was talking to this young lad in England, and he was telling me that he's living with his aunt. So I said, so why don't you live with your mum and dad? He said, they wouldn't let me put an aerial up. So with that, back to you, Led.
That wasn't you, was it?
No, in actual fact, this was a little bit off frequency. We were in a grey area when we did that, but so that would have been about 84 or something like that. But yeah, it was quite funny. So nice young lad. He was only 16, but he wanted to live with his aunt just because of the aerial. So, in any case, and when it's time, I will pass this over to Jackie. So back to you, Led.
Okay, well, put that radio on a canoe paddle or something, and pass it across to Jackie with a slice of birthday cake on it.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the best wishes. One comment that I have is that when I tell people, and usually these are horse people or book club people, that I happen to be a ham radio operator, they look at me in a gasp and say, "What the heck is that?" And then we go from there. Over.
Yes, I can see that being a typical response. Quite often I'll get, people still do that? And yeah, people still do that, and it's lots of fun. And yeah, so very good. And Jeffrey, since Lois is online, oh, okay, hold on. Is she, she's saying something. Okay, so apparently she got the Yoda. I guess her name of her is, so am I understanding correctly here, Lois, that the name of your iPhone is Yoda? And that's how you've got the name Yoda on there for your screen name? Very good. Okay, well, that's interesting. And yeah, so I'm hoping Jackie's having a good birthday party over there. And hopefully the bugs stay out. Stay away, and so you can enjoy the evening, although it's supposed to rain at some point. And of course, it was supposed to rain all afternoon, but it never did. Let's see, VE3 PWJ Peter.
Well, good evening, Laird, and all the good folks tonight so far. And first of all, happy birthday, Jackie, and many, many more. So it's always nice to get together with friends there. That's great. And one of the things that I remember when we first did ham radio, and that was many years ago, we did a GOTA Girl Guide thing on the air at Fort Perry at that little cabin thing they have on the road going north. I think you know what I mean. There's a little triangle park area there. And it was the first time. We had a great time up there, but that one even made the paper with in the, well, that was the Oshawa Times, and one of them anyway at that time. And they had a fairly good picture of me and a couple of the people with the radio, so it was kind of a fun time. They had a lot of people asking about ham radio and that. So anyway, we'll get along there until we can get some more beans there. Over to you.
Yeah, I remember the first time I worked, I think it was Canoe the Non-Quan, and I think Fred Bengal was heading it up, or I was working with Fred, something like that. And it was quite interesting. I'll have to tell you guys in person sometime. But he was, well, maybe I'll tell you tonight. He was basically testing out his radio and the extended capabilities. And I had two radios set up. One was on just a scanner on the police frequencies that they were using, and they were just somewhere down near the ham bands at that time. And one was on 2 meters, the ham band, listening on the repeater. And all of a sudden I heard Fred coming in on my scanner. And so I went back to him on my 2 meter rig and I said, "Fred, I think you're a couple of KCs off." And poor guy was mortified, but it was funny. And so I guess those things happen. But that was sort of a funny thing I remember too, when you were mentioning some of your stuff there, Peter. VE3HIX Bob.
Good evening, Laird, and good evening, everybody on the repeater here. I think one of the most interesting pieces I had was last year at the field day. I had a little card table and a couple of chairs set up outside the trailer that we were using. And on that I had some borrowed, let's see, a key and a bug and a set of paddles and a keyer as an oscillator and a copy of the code, and all the kids and parents came by to play with this stuff. And because some of them had never actually seen this before, even the code chart had on it the international code, which we use, the European code, and the actual Morse code railway code. People are asking, well, which one is it, kind of thing. And it seemed to bring a lot of interest because people had never actually seen what this stuff could do, and they just kind of left with a smile with the sound of the Morse code in the background, plus the stuff that they were making. Made a heck of a nice noise. Those were interesting times. If you're going to stop halfway through, I managed to get through the software to figure out how this whole thing works for the submitting files for field day. If we want to talk about that later on tonight as well. Back to you, Larry, VE3HIX.
Excellent, Bob. Yes, we will stop halfway through again and have a little discussion about that. And I'm glad you were able to make some progress there. Can't wait to hear what it's all about. Let's see. VA3 DCE, Doug.
VA3DCE, good evening, Laird. How are you and everybody on frequency? I remember Fred well. Took my course with him at McLaughlin Collegiate. A really great guy. Happy birthday to Jackie there, and many more, of course. And my best memory is down in Paul's Dirty Enduro. I'm out in the middle of some lost place. I wasn't lost. With my truck, and I packed up at the end of it, and I started to come out to head home, and I ran into three people, not just physically, but father, mother, and a child walking. And they had no idea how to get out of the forest, whether they go north, south, east, or west. They ended up in my truck, and I brought them all the way back to the forest center, and that was the happy ending to their day. They had a wonderful walk until they got to the fact that they didn't know how to get back to their truck. Back to you, Laird.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, that's an easy place to get lost in. And I know for myself, there was a few times where we were doing the Paul's Dirty Enduro, and if it wasn't for the fact that I had a GPS with me, I don't think I'd probably still be out in the bush there somewhere. And yeah, so very easy. And I was always amazed at Eric. What's his call sign? I can't remember his call sign, but you all know who I mean. He always drove the big Suburban, and you know, you could get on the radio and say, "Okay, Eric, I'm at a crossroad. Here's what the two little markers say," and he knew exactly where you were, and he could guide you anywhere from that point. It was just amazing. He knew that place like the back of his hand. Let's see, who's next? VE3KZT John. Oh, and John, I'm just curious. That hard line that you have. Do you have an adapter to take it down to a regular SO239 connector?
Good evening, Laird, and happy birthday to Jackie. Yes, I have 239 put on the end of the hard line on both ends of it. And the antenna that I received today to put up, believe it or not, has an end fitting. So now I got to go from the end of the 239. Yes, I have that already. I have it loaded in the truck, and looking forward to see what it says tomorrow.
Okay, very good, John. Yes, I just wanted to make sure because I know my pigtail that I have for the Nano goes to a, I can never remember these are, I guess it's a female SO239. So it's got the threads on the outside, and you would take the other connector and screw it down over top. So we'll be good then. And excellent. It just dawned on me when we started tonight that we may need that if you had it on other connectors, we would need to adapt it somehow. Perfect. Can't wait till tomorrow. Gives us something to do. And I guess what we'll do tomorrow too is if Jackie shows up, maybe we'll buy her a treat too for her birthday. A belated birthday, but a treat nonetheless. VE3IRB, Robert. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to all. I've had a few, nothing incredible, but I've had fun at the displays. I remember that kid at the Ham field day using Bob's equipment and my equipment, having fun there. Some of those kids pick it up a lot quicker than you'd imagine. It's quite amazing to see. On another topic, if I happen to be up at White Feather Farms tomorrow and I happen to have a coil of coax, what would be a good time to happen to be there just in case somebody had a tester to see if it was any good? It's missing one end connector, but it's got an end connector on the other end. Over.
Well, I don't know, Bob, but I can tell you this. I'm going to be up there at about 8:30 to buy some eggs and some other groceries that I need. It's funny, I started, I've been trying to pick a different, let me backtrack a bit. They've got all these different unique sort of mom and pop shop products there, And one of the ones I picked up one week was a hot pepper jelly. No, it's not really hot. At least I don't think it's hot. But it's really nice on crackers or on a piece of toast in the morning. And my family just drains a bottle a week now. So that's sort of a regular staple now when I go up there. And they also have stuff like chutneys and corn relishes and all that sort of stuff. So I usually have quite a shopping list to go through and then grab a cup of coffee and head back out to the lot. So we're going to be testing out a piece of cable for John, theoretically, if he shows up. And so theoretically, if you were to show up too, we could test that out as well. Darren's going to be there to help me. And actually, the next person in line here is Joe, and I just need to ask him a question about the NanoSaver software, and we'll be ready to go. I'm just going to drop it. So theoretically, Bob, you can theoretically get your coax tested theoretically tomorrow at the theoretical grocery store. Uh-oh, did we lose him?
Sounds great. I thought you were passing it over to the next guy. Sorry.
Okay, very good. Well, we can help you out, Bob. No problem, and we can do it well within safe distancing. It's just a matter of dropping it on the hood of my vehicle, walking away, and then I can come in and hook it up and see what we can find out, and go from there. Okay, let's see. Joe, VE3VGJ, and I take it you're not at home in Bowmanville because I hear that little teardrop when you key your phone. And I have a question for you, Joe. I hooked my Nano up to my computer, and I have run the calibration, and now I want to save it with NanoSaver. Can you tell me how to do that? I think I may have figured it out. I went down to, where was it? Oh, maybe I didn't figure out. So can you step me through the process of how I need to save that, if you know how, without having your computer there?
Yes, good evening, Laird, and everybody on frequency. First, happy birthday to Jackie. All the best to you there. And Laird, I'm just booting it up here. And if you just got a second here, you did click on the calibration. And did you go through the calibration assistant and do the calibration that way?
No, and you know what? I think I just discovered that. I did the calibration just on the Nano itself. So I finally found calibration on the NanoSaver. So I'm assuming I call that box up, and then I go through the calibration again. So I would put my short on and then click the short box on the computer screen.
The calibration assistant will walk you right through it. It'll tell you the steps, and then when everything is done, there's a point there where you just do the three, the short, the open, and the 50 ohm, and then at that point, you also did it, when you did it manually on the Nano itself, it probably saved your calibration results in memory 0, if I'm not mistaken, and when you turn it on, it calls it back. I'm guessing at that, but no, go to the calibration assistant, follow the instructions. At a point, like I say, it'll do the three standards, and then if you want to do a through one, you don't want to do that, it'll tell the instructions, and then you can save it and you're good to go.
Back to you.
Okay, very good. Do I need to do the through, or like should I? Do you recommend that?
I don't use it. It says if you're just using it for SWR, the through is for more advanced stuff. I have no idea what it's used for, so I wouldn't go anywhere near it there, Laird. Just do it with the three standards, the open, short, and the 50 ohm.
Okay, very good. I'm going to work on that then, and you can take it away and give us one of your memorable moments. But there are ladies involved here tonight, Joe, so don't mention the Tall Pines rally.
Well, actually, I'm going to mention the Tall Pines rally, and yes, I remember that incident. That was kind of fun, but no, the public interaction was kind of interesting at a couple of the checkpoints where I had the ATV, and of course, I had the loud Motorola speaker on there. Did you hear that, Gerard? Motorola speaker. Anyway, it really barks out a good signal, and it doesn't take long for the spectators to tune into what's going on with the radio. And it was fun. They were they were interacting. They knew when the sweeps were coming through, what car was coming through. They were tuned right in on it, and it was kind of fun to see that. One of the humorous interactions was I was helping out with the Seeing Eye Dog fundraiser we used to do in Newcastle. I was stationed at Mill Street in Metcalf, just along there from where Farney lives, and they had marshals on the course there. I'm just going to drop it here. And anyway, where I was parked at the T in the road, across from me was two of the marshals, two young ladies, teenagers, and what they issued were poop pails. And these are 5-gallon pails with a lid, and on the side of it said poop pail. And these were to, anybody walking their dogs, and they pick up their droppings, and they put the bag in the poop pail. Well, at one point, one of the young ladies was sitting on this poop pail. I guess her legs were tired, and I didn't have a camera. It would have been an ideal shot. It was just kind of funny sitting across from it. Anyway, back to you there, Laird.
Yes, very good. Sorry. Yeah, those rally of the Tall Pines are always fun to help out with. And I had the worst place on the whole course to be. The people at where I was stationed, they were miserable. It was terrible. These people would come out to my car where I was sitting, and I'm trying to provide radio communications, and they would come out, and it was just brutal. They would bring me, big cups of coffee and freshly made muffins. And, later they would bring out hot soups or chili and sandwiches. And then at lunchtime, they would make me come down and have lunch with them. I didn't even know these people, but it was funny. Over the years, we became quite good friends. And every year when I came back, they would always sort of comment, "Oh, I'm glad it's you that's back at the checkpoint again." And I used to rub it into everybody else on the course that, I was having such a miserable time. And the things you do for ham radio and supporting events. Anyways, Joe, I got through the calibration, and I'm just saving it now. So thank you very much for your help. So I'll know how to do this tomorrow morning again too, because I'll have to do it again on my laptop. Although I don't have to do it again on my laptop, because I can save this in Dropbox and just call it up from Dropbox on my laptop. So perfect. Okay, very good. I'm talking to myself. Just ignore me. Let's see. VE3 RPN, Scott.
VE3 LKS, VE3 RPN. I don't want to touch that one, buddy. It's talking to yourself. Actually, I do the same thing a lot, just the wife sure doesn't want to talk. Anyway, buddy, go figure, right? A couple of things. One thing I want to wish our young lady that's got a birthday, Jackie, a happy birthday, and hope to see her on Saturday morning. And I had a couple things that were interesting there. I think the thing that really made me feel good about ham radio is I was down at working. We used to do Harbor. We still do Washington, so they still do. They shut down Harbor Days. We did Harbor Days at Whitby Club for a long time. And I brought my just 130, and I was working 20 meters to show the folks down there at the Whitby Marina how to play with our radio. And I just had my little antenna thing everywhere. And actually, we had a young lad, 16, and boy, I'll tell you, he grabs it there. I have no time at all. He knows what he's doing practically. And he's got himself on there, the Midway. So he's having a good old laugh. He said, "Is that a real ship?" And I said, "Yeah, it was in service there." And a couple other things he talked to.
Node 27838. Time out.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. If someone online is using the All-Star to come in, you just timed out the repeater. So if you can disconnect from All-Star and then go back in, that'd be great. Okay, Scott, unfortunately, we got to the part where you were talking to a young lad about a ship. I think he said that the ship's name was Midway, and then the repeater timed out. So if you want to pick it up from there and continue on again, it was sound like a real interesting story.
Geez, I haven't timed out anything in a while. B3 podcast, B3 RPM. No problem there, Laird. Sorry about that. Yeah, no, and my kids were watching and their friends, Beverly Hills 9010, whatever it was. And on there, they made a comment about their father being a real nerd. He had a ham radio, and he had a moped. So there you go. Who drove a moped every day for 4 years and knew his ham radio? So from that day forward, I got named, basically Nerd of the Year. Anyway, over to you there. Great job, buddy. B3 LKS, B3 RPS.
Yeah, I don't think it was your fault there, Scott, that it timed out. Yeah, I think the All-Star node had it hung up there, and the All-Star node didn't drop, and then so it kept going and held the repeater open, and that's why it timed out. So, not to worry. Well, Scott, I'm glad to know I'm in good company because my kids call me a nerd too, and almost for the same reason. And I do have a moped now. It's not running right now, but I do have a moped, and. So, maybe you need to get a moped again, and then you and I can go out cruising and show guys like Bob and Jeffrey up with their big bikes. Anyways, we're at the bottom of the list, and Gary, VE3OGS is on the YouTube station. Good evening, Gary. Welcome to the Rag Chew this evening. And at this time, I will take a quick standby and see if anybody else wants to check in. If you do, please come now. This is Laird, VE3LKS.
This is VA3AG.
VE3IGX.
Okay, I copy VA3AG Eldo and VE3IGX Cam, and there was another station on there before Eldo, and I'm sorry, I couldn't make it out. It was a lot of noise. I think I heard something that said Neil, so I'm assuming your name may have been Neil, but that's all I picked up from your transmission. Let's try it again, though. We don't give up too easily, so we'll give it another couple tries here to see if we can get your call sign. So come again. This is Laird, VE3LKS. Okay, I didn't catch it again, but just I'm going to unkey here. But when I unkey, give it about 2 seconds. I'm going to switch to reverse and see if I can hear you. Stand by. And yeah, give me 2 seconds and then try your call sign again. No, sorry, old man. Just can't do it. It's just not coming in. I can tell you're talking, but there's just no audio. Can anyone else hear him by any chance?
I think it's Steve there, Laird.
Oh, way up there in Fenland Falls. Okay. Yeah, see, I thought I heard Neil, but I guess that could have been Steve. Okay, well, sorry, Steve. I'm just not, or Neil, whoever it is, I'm just not hearing you. So if you do have access to the internet, go on YouTube and look up my call sign, which is Victor Echo 3 Lima Kilowatt Sierra. Go to our live stream and just drop a message in there letting me know who it is. And at least then we'll get you in the log and you can make some comments on there and we can read them out over the air. But sorry, I'm just not catching it. Let's see. We'll go back to Aldo, VA3AG, and the topic of the evening is a memorable interaction with the public while working amateur radio. So, for instance, you may have been working an event like a public service event or a field day or something like that, where you had some interesting interactions with the public.
Well, I've had some public events in amateur radio going back. I forget what year it was. Do you remember the Mississauga derailment? That train with all the propane and what have you that was burning up years ago. Well, I was at one of the schools providing communications, one of the shelters there, because there was a lot of people that had to leave their homes, and they were at one of the schools there anyways, and that's where I was providing communications. It was way back. I forget what year it was. Anyway, that was my interaction with people. They were very appreciative of everything that we were doing. And at that time, I was the ARRL emergency coordinator for Oshawa, believe it or not. Go ahead.
Wow, that's going back quite a ways, Aldo. No, just joking. Yeah, I think I was 4 when that happened. I'll have to look it up because I remember the event. I'm just not sure what year it was. But man, that's great. And the emergency coordinator for Oshawa, that's awesome. I mean, now I don't even think we have a group. We used to have quite an active group, probably back about 10 maybe 15 years ago. But yeah, it's too bad nothing's happening with that anymore. But interesting. Well, you were doing you were doing great work then, Aldo, for the hobby, and yeah, maybe we should consider trying to get something going again, because it'd be good to have guys interested in the emergency measures again. Let's see, VE3IGX Cam.
Good evening, Laird, and everyone on frequency. And I want to wish a happy birthday to Jackie. Not too much for me on the ham radio side, because I was in it for a while and then out for 37 years. And I do always remember that I attended something to do with ham radio down in Toronto one night. And I was going through my logbook, and I found a certificate for attendance at the 1977 ARRL National Convention, Toronto, sponsored by Scarborough Amateur Radio Club, presented by the Northtown Amateur Radio Club. So that's the most exciting stuff today. Hoping more to come. Anyway, we'll give it on back to you. VE3LKS, VE3IGX.
Comment?
Go ahead, comment.
Yeah, Sound Amateur Radio Club. I was a member way back. That's where I got my license. Gee, I wonder if we were in the same class or something.
I took my course through Scarborough Amateur Radio Club in 76, 83 ITX.
Yeah, okay. I used to come out to the field days for the Scarborough Club. Okay, well, no, I heard you mention Northtown, and that was the club that I belong to, and that's where I got my ticket. In Laird, while I have it here, I wish you were available way back then, because I remember coming to the Oshawa Club, because I lived in Oshawa, and I came to the Oshawa Club trying to recruit some people for, the emergency thing. And needless to say, I was not, successful. I remember Bernie, I think his call was VE3ATT, I'm not sure. I was trying to give him my spiel, and I was pretty new at all this, and boy, he grilled me pretty good. So I sat down and shut up and asked him, well, if you're interested to join, let me know, and we'll take it from there. I didn't know what to say, but you remember Bernie? Maybe some of the older guys do.
Yeah, Bernie's call was ATI, and ATT was a fellow who lived, just up near Lake Ridge and Highway 7. And I knew him. I got my ticket in '89. Russell was his name. And there was a bunch of us that would talk on the repeater every morning on our way to work at around 6 o'clock. We'd all hit the highway at the same time. And then we'd all stop at Yummy Donuts in Whitby there, just on Brock Street, pull off the highway, grab one of those, and then hit back out on the highway again. And Russ would be on there talking. And Russ was a shut-in at that time. He had too many health problems, and he had very terrible mobility issues. But he was always known for timing out the repeater. And back then, the OSH repeater had like a 5-minute timeout. And he would time it out 2 or 3 times in the morning on the way to work on us. But he was a lovable guy, and he was just part of the gang. But we always sort of cringed when he keyed up the mic, because we knew he was going to time out 5 minutes later. But yeah, it's interesting how some of these things go. I'm just going to drop it here so I don't time it out. I know when I first joined the club, one of the old timers was giving me a hard time because I only knew 5 words a minute. It's when they had just dropped the requirement from, I think, 11 or 12 words a minute down to 5 words a minute. And of course, a lot of these old timers were dead against it, and they had nothing good to say about us new guys coming into the hobby that only had to learn 5 words a minute. And I'll never forget this. And I probably told you already, but I'll tell it again. This one guy one night cornered me, and he says, "What are you ever going to do if there's a ship that's sinking in the ocean, and you can only send at 5 words a minute?" And I said, if there's a ship that's sinking in the middle of the ocean, and I'm the only station that can hear him, he has a very, very important decision to make. He can either continue on at 12 words a minute or 15 words a minute and ignore me and sink, or he can slow down, send me his coordinates, and I can get help on the way. How about that, Aldo?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember all that when they were trying to reduce the Morse code speed and all that. Because I had to learn 10 words a minute, too, and then 15 to get my advance. I went through all that, and it wasn't easy to get your license. You know, you had to. There was a lot to study and a lot to learn. But anyway, this is why we don't have that many hams anymore. The ranks of amateur radio are dwindling, and that's what happened because the older guys back then, they were against that. They didn't want to make it easier, and that we're paying now. But anyway, I was going to say something else. I just remember. I should have written it down. Oh, yes. About tomorrow morning, I have an SBB that I just bought, an SBB2. It's the 18-inch VHF UHF that I wanted to set up or check it out for SWR. There's probably no setting up to do on it, but I wanted to make sure that it's working correctly and that the SWR is not too high. Anyway, I'm not gonna say that I'm going to show up, but maybe, you never know.
Not a problem. We'll have the equipment there. So, and maybe Darren will even bring his handheld unit that he's got too. So we'll have my Nano there for sure, and maybe we can twist Darren's arm to bring his rig expert along as well. So yeah, that'll be great. Oh, and I just saw pop up on the YouTube station, Bill, VE3WBZ. Maybe that's, I think Bill was the one who was trying to get in, but he's checking in on his portable, so we couldn't hear him. He's wishing us all a great weekend. And Bill, right back at you, man. Have a great weekend, and I hope you have a good one. And with that, I believe someone wanted to talk to us about something at the break here before we go back to the top of the list again. And I can't for the life of me remember who it was or what it was. But I'll just take a break here. And whoever it was who needed to discuss something, refresh my memory, please.
Must be a bad evening. The VE3HIX, and you wanted me to give some kind of report on the field day software, over?
Oh, yes, that's what it was. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, this gets cute. I'll have to do this with one arm here. When you install or operate the field day software, that's the, N3FJP, no matter where the license came from, whether you purchased it or used a club copy, if you go into the common fields when it's set up and put in your call, okay, and then put in your class of 1D for home use or 1 for home use on a generator, in the section the section GTA, you click done there, and then you operate it normally. Every time you have a QSO with somebody, you put in the call, the class, and the section, and just keep on adding the stuff up. You have to be in the right band and the right mode for a phone or CW or data, and you go through the normal stuff that you normally would. Now the fun starts when it's the day after field day, and you have to submit this. We don't know yet whether we're going to submit it individually or submit the whole thing through Darren if he's willing to take it on, because if there are like 6 of us doing this, we would have to go through this routine 6 times, and we got 3 files to consider here. I'm just going to drop it for a second. Let's see now. What you do is to create a file where it says to create the what's it called? Cabrillo or Cabrillo file. It's named after a place in California. If you don't actually do that, you put together a dupe file that duplicates your data, and that's just the data only. So the first file, before you get to that, is the actual file that you created with the program, and that is just an MDB, a Microsoft database file. It doesn't have anything to do with who the license is or what the call is or anything like that you're using. It's a straight database. And that file On the data file, stand by. Get out of here. The data file is a yourcallletters.dup. It's a duplicate file. You can open it up with Notepad and look at it. And it's got your call section and so forth. And then it's got all of the dupe sheet of all the people that you've had a QSO with. I'll drop it again. Okay, that has to be submitted to the ARRL, that file. The second file you create is kind of a summary file with your call letters.sum. You can also open that one with Notepad. And it's got all the extra information on there, like summaries of how many people you talk to on which band and which mode, and whether you use a generator or straight AC power and so forth, and what you had for any extra information to go for bonus. So for instance, I'm going to have the field day message in Morse code that I'm going to decode and say I've got stuck in there, but I have to prove it by submitting a file as well. Okay, so you've got these two files that you can either submit yourself or send to Darren to make sure they're clean, and he can submit them. And then you check, or he checks into the ARRL field day setup here. And I'm doing this as I go onto it. And go to the data entry section. And for each person, now you have to put in the call used and the location. And here's the big one, the club or group name. And we need a club name for our club. The exact name with the exact spelling so we can submit this for everybody. And as you go farther down, it's anything for bonus points and with the proof that you browse and submit. And finally, the band and mode QSO breakdown. You have to put in each band, how many QSOs you had under CW digital and phone, and what power you used. Let's just say 100 watts. And then you have to upload the dupe sheet that I was talking about. There's no Cabrillo file for this one. And then at the bottom, you put in your name, your call, your email, and send it in. Nothing to it. So the question is, are we going to do this, or is Darren going to do this? Over.
Very good question. And we'll have to discuss that when we have our Zoom meeting, maybe next Sunday evening. We were planning on having a Zoom meeting at I think about 7:00 next Sunday, so we can we'll table that as one of the questions, and maybe you can show us then online how it is. I mean, it doesn't sound too hard, so it's just a matter of submitting the files, and then making. I think the key thing is making sure everyone calls it the same club. So we could go with North Shore ARC, and then maybe a dash and VE3 NSR, because I think that's what we traditionally go with for field day, and submit that as a club name. As long as everyone was using the exact same spelling and everything, and the exact same wording, like North Shore is not one word, it's two words, and have a dash and then the call sign. I think we should probably be okay that way, but we need to give our field day guy something to do too, so we'll have to take that under consideration. Does anybody else have any comments or suggestions on that, especially since Darren's not on the repeater tonight? He's on YouTube.
Well, this is VA3AG. I think one guy should take care of the whole thing, so that it's all done the same. Quick question: are we buying individual ones, or what are we doing? Let me know.
You can actually, I've proven that you can do it either way, because if you put your own call into the beginning when you set the thing up, and it would create the files with your call in the proper place within the file. And in the actual database file, it doesn't matter. It doesn't care. Your call isn't in there anyway. It's when it makes these dupe sheet files and these auxiliary files to find the extra information. That's where your own stuff goes in. Second, the extra information isn't even if you tell Darren, yes, I used a generator and I'm claiming extra points for this, and here's my proof, because he can generate that himself as well, but he's going to have to read every one of these things into his own software individually and put your call at the beginning of his software when he fires it up to create this, or he's going to have to go into a notebook and edit the ASCII file to make it look perfect, because one of them has to be submitted along with this information. I think the first time he does it, you stumble your way through, and the second time it just goes to take a couple of seconds. Stand by. Just a further note, if you're going to purchase the software, according to the author, you should purchase it like now. Don't wait for a week before field day, because they said it's so hectic there that they work day and night, and they can't quite get around to getting you your version and your license so that you can use it. And as we said before, you could have 30 entries, and you wouldn't have to have it anyway. So let it go back to that. Back to you, Waldo.
Okay, Bob. Thanks a lot. Appreciate the info. Back to you there, Laird.
Yeah, I think what I would suggest, and of course this is just my own single voice, we can take a vote on it, but I would suggest that the members buy their own copy, because we are not, I know it's sort of a club thing, but it's sort of not. And for the sake of $10, it'll help this guy along. So I think, I don't know whether it's a moral issue or not, but I don't think it'd be a problem if we spent the $10 and each bought our own copy of the software. It's not going to break the bank, and as I think Aldo said last night, like, what's that? Half the price of a Starbucks. So I think we'll be okay. And as far as the 30 contact limit, I think, if you get on there, even if you don't think you're going to make 30 contacts, you could easily make 30 contacts, because if the bands happen to be alive, you're going to be not suckered in, but you're going to be drawn in, and you're going to end up sitting there for a few hours making contact after contact, and those 30 entries are going to go by pretty quick.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I'll purchase my own. One of the reasons is just so that everything goes in the right place in the right header when you create the file. So you've got a choice, really. You can make those two files yourself and submit them to Darren, or you can submit the original MDB database file to Darren with a little information as to, are you using a generator, that type of thing. And do you want any bonus points for anything specific? And he can create the stuff himself. And you don't have to wonder about, is there anything in there for VE3 NSR? And I would kind of suggest that we, instead of using the VE3 NSR in the name, that we just go with something like the Oshawa North Shore Amateur Radio Club or something of that nature, so that it's going to be cross-referenced by a database. You don't want a little slip out of place, like did you put a space before and after the dash and that kind of thing. I'll vote for simplicity, and something that a computer can look up as well as a human. What do you think, Laird?
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And that's something we can decide on when we have our Zoom meeting too. And whatever's going to make it easier on Darren. Well, Darren, it sounds like Darren may be doing it. All in favor? Okay, all opposed? No, I didn't see Darren oppose it. So, yeah, very good. So maybe what I'll do is tomorrow, maybe I'll send out an email to all the club members and maybe mention that this is how we're going to do it. And if you want to participate in field day, you'll need to purchase the software. Bob, can you send me the link to that? I know I can probably look it up, but if you've got it handy, just email me the link, and I will include the link in the mail out, and that way everyone will have it. Okay, we are at the bottom of the list, and I'll just take one last check-in, our call for check-ins. So if you're listening and want to jump into the Rag Chew this evening, now's your opportunity. This is Laird VE3 LKS. Okay, nothing heard. So way back up to the top to Jeffrey, VA3 RTV. And hope those candles aren't burning down close to the top of the cake.
Yeah, thanks, Laird. And first of all, the Yoda, it actually was my cat that found me, and it had an infection in his ears, and his ears were down. And I said to Liza, he looks just like Yoda. Well, once we got his ears fixed up with some medication, they popped back up, and but we still call him Yoda. But he's deceased now. Any case, a couple of things. I'm planning on going to White Feather Farm. That emergency group, I was involved with it, just one meeting at Whitby. I went with Fred Bangle, who was my examiner in '99 when I took my license. And that was kind of funny because I took the test in his kitchen with a 16-year-old, and I was halfway through the questions, and the 16-year-old said, I'm finished, and Fred put the covers over and marked everything. He said, congratulations, and off he goes. And I said, well, Fred, I said, I'm only halfway through the test. And he says, don't worry, Jeffrey, how about a cup of tea? So I had a cup of tea, and then he said that the fellow only just passed it. At that time, it was 60%, so he got 60. And any case, and the only other couple of things I wanted to mention, I'm also affiliated quite closely with Northtown. They send me their newsletter, and that because I used to go there quite regularly, and through the Science Centre volunteers for the V3 OSC. And the only other quick thing I've got to mention, has anyone heard from Jimmy? We miss him. Back to you, Led.
No, but I made a note to myself tonight that if he wasn't on the net tonight, then I'm going to send him an email. So I'll see what's up with Jimmy. Maybe he's been putting up antennas or something and trying to be incognito about it, so he doesn't have to, tell us that he's doing it. And he's going to come on some night with just a huge booming signal. But yeah, I'll send him an email later on and see what's going on. Let me see. VA3 BTQ Jackie.
Hello again. Thank you, everybody, for your kind wishes. Hope to see you at the farm tomorrow with a new scamp. Over.
Very good. We won't recognize him, but looking forward to that, Jackie. And he's always fun to have around. And you are too. Don't get me wrong. But it's funny how those little critters sort of grow on you, man. I know I've got a couple of little critters out in my backyard, a couple of chipmunks, and we've nicknamed them. One is Kevin and one is Norbert, and my son nicknamed them. They're from the Minions movies from Pixar, I guess. And it's really quite funny because I was out doing some planting today at noon hour. And I was just transplanting some of my hot peppers into regular planters, and he came up. One of them came up and just sort of sat on the trailer where I had all my pots up, and it was like he was looking at me. He's going to say, "Well, aren't you going to give me any peanuts?" He's used to me sitting in the chair and just feeding him peanuts all the time, and he saw me out there and he come running over, and he was expecting some handouts, but I didn't have any at the time, so I think he was a bit miffed at me, but I made up for it in the afternoon. Let's see, VE3PWJ. Peter.
Yeah, lots of traffic back and forth there tonight, and we're going to be up there, Diane and I, in the morning, Laird, so we will see you and all the good folks that do end up being there. And Jeanette is going to be there tomorrow, too, so I had a little chat with her a little while ago. So should have a good get-together up there. So we'll say 7-3 from here, Laird, and we will look forward to seeing you in the morning. Over to you, Laird.
Oh, excellent. It'll be great to see Jeanette. She's always, she's one of those people that, you just enjoy having around, much like your wife. And you too, Peter. Okay, I better say that because don't want you to feel left out. But no, it is. And I think I mentioned this the other night. I don't know what the ride for the United Way would be like if she wasn't there, because she sort of makes the event for the radio operators, anyways, and it's just her bubbly personality, and sort of matter of factism, but I enjoy it. Let's see, VE3HIX Bob.
Oh, you caught me by surprise. I was just having a look to see what the URL is for the field day log information, and I forgot first time around. Happy birthday there, Jackie. Sorry about that. Got too tied up with this electronic and data stuff. So yeah, I'm just getting an email off you, and nothing more to report on the original topic. We'll look forward to see what's happening with this stuff, and hear back from you of what we should be doing. Over.
I'm sorry, Bob. I sort of missed that last part. Was that directed at me about what we should be doing?
Yes, I meant for the type of thing that we've been talking about here. Which way we're going to go on this stuff? I'll vote right now for.
I see.
Purchasing the software, submitting all 3 files to Darren, and unless you're really sure about what you're doing. And if you're not, you can just submit the actual the data file, and he can figure the rest out from there. Over.
Oh, okay, very good. Yeah, okay. That one just sort of went right over my head, but it's Friday night, so it can be expected. It's just about fried. Yes, very good. Okay, I appreciate that. And yeah, and unless anyone has any objections, I think we'll just go with that. As I say, I just feel better throwing the $10, the fella's way. And I think I agree with you too. If we have one central data submitter, we won't have, if there's 6 of us, we won't have 6 different versions of the submission going in that could possibly cause grief. So I think, and Darren, I'm sure will probably agree to that, but we can discuss that with him tomorrow morning as well. Very good. VA3 DCE, Doug.
I almost went for a second supper. It's good to be back. And all this conversation, except the logging software, has brought back so many memories. I'm sitting here reminiscing about the different rallies and events and bicycles and cars and winter time and snowballs, snowbanks with cars coming off them, and all the rest of it. Wading through water with up the front bumper of my truck. And anyway, we'll see you tomorrow morning, BA3DC.
Yeah, taking pictures at the Dungannon Rec Center, doing the sled dog races when that guy got lost. That was because he fell asleep while mushing. And the dogs, they saw this sign and, well, let's just go for this loop again. And they were more than happy to do so. But, oh, yeah, all sorts of fun time. And that's the thing about amateur radio. It gets you involved with activities that you would never probably go to. Like I'm into racing. Like I love NASCAR. And, but I probably would never, ever have gone to a road rally if it wasn't for you guys and needing amateur radio operators. I probably never would have gone to a sled dog race if it wasn't for you guys needing amateur radio operators. So, I've gotten to experience a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have, and I'm glad for it. I probably wouldn't have gone to a blacksmithing course. No, I don't think you were with us that time, Doug, but, if it wasn't for Joe and Carl. So, it's all sorts of fun. VE3 KZT John.
Did you get your package, Laird?
My package. Okay, you'll have to refresh my brain on that one.
The meeting, Friday night meeting at Tall Pines. Somebody didn't get their package.
Oh, yes. We won't go into that on the air, though. Uh, that was funny, though. I always had a package, Doug. But yeah, I know what you're referring to. And we won't repeat the story on the air right now. We'll do that when we're face to face with those who are inquiring about that. But it's funny. We just don't want to embarrass someone who's may not find it too funny. Anyways, VE3KZT, John.
Good evening again, Laird, and all those on frequency. And I forgot to mention what my interest was in ham radio. One of my earlier days of ham radio, when I was a member of a Hark Amateur Radio Club in Coburg, we used to set up a station at Northumberland Mall in the west end of Coburg on a regular basis and show off amateur radio equipment, CW equipment, and whatever else, trying to recruit members. And believe it or not, we did create some members out of those little events that we used to have at the mall. Back to you, VE3KZT, and I'll see you in the morning.
Oh, very good, John. I've been in that mall a few times because I work in Port Hope, although I haven't been there for 3 months, I don't think. Yeah, just about 3 months. I've been working out of my home office, but I go over there once in a while, and been through that little mall a few times, and yeah, that's nice. And they used to have quite an active club there. I don't know how it's doing now, but I know they used to be quite active, and I've run into a few of the past members from there, well, you being one of them. But I mean, even at work one time, I work at a medical clinic, and one of the guys coming out saw my license plate, and he saw me hop in, and he came running over to my vehicle, and we started chatting, and yeah, we just went from there. So that's one of those things where when you have your vanity plate on, you can make new friends. VE3 IRB, Robert.
VE3 IRB. First to Aldo, the Mississauga training drill was in 1979. I was going to the Erringdale campus of the UT at the time, and we had to be evacuated. I was through the crossing where the derailment happened that night, and amateur radio-wise, I wasn't in it at that time, but that night we couldn't get a phone line. All the phone lines broke down just because everybody was phoning everybody. It's a good reminder that sometimes you really do need a radio. That's how we were getting our news. We all had radios turned on and heard where the evacuations were happening and where we were supposed to go. Anyways, back to you.
Oh, very good, Bob. That story about the phones all being tied up, that used to remind me when I was a kid. So in 79, I would have been 17. So, yeah, I remember it happening. I just couldn't remember when. But I remember, especially like Christmas, like especially special holidays like Christmas and that, when we would try to call our grandparents out in Saskatchewan. You know, sometimes it would take you, 6 hours to get through. You would just keep trying and trying and trying. Even just picking up the phone, you wouldn't get a dial tone locally. And that was always a fun thing. But yeah, so I can only imagine that when an emergency happened like that the phones would soon be overcome with usage, and no one would be able to get on. Totally different nowadays, but I'm sure they would still reach their capacity. No question about it. Let's see, VE3 VGJ Joe. I've got the software all loaded. Now I need to know how do I tell what the coax quality is like.
I'm going to have to call the screen up here again, but there is on the left-hand side, there's a little pick along there where you can select the type of cable. I've not used it. I played with it, just looked at it, but I think that's where it is. I have to call the screen up. You sort of caught me off guard here. I want to make a couple comments there on the package. Yes, that was a very humorous event there. Thanks for reminding me about it, Doug. You gave me a great big smile here. And a couple things off the mark here, just things. I don't know if anybody on the news saw that landslide over in Norway. Alta, Norway or something. There's huge pieces of land slid into the ocean with houses on it. It was just something to see.
And another thing too is years ago when I was a kid going through the winter carnival, Royal Winter Carnival there, Royal Winter Fair with my father and that, I remember Tiny Tom's Donuts, and I remember seeing these donuts being made going along a little trough and flipped over, and they used to either be covered with sugar or cinnamon sugar, I think it was, and you used to get a baker's dozen. Well, the fellow that started that passed away just recently. It's kind of funny how you remember some of that stuff. Back to you. I'll see if I can find that pic for you there. I have to call the software up on the Nano.
Yeah, no problem, Joe. We can discuss that once the net's over too, and go from there. Yes, and I was reading about that fellow passing away this week. I mean, it was almost. I think he was at the Sportsman show too, if I remember correctly. And I mean, it was almost when you went to one of those events, it was almost everyone. You had to go there. You know, if you went to that event, you had to go get some of those donuts. It wasn't, yeah, I may get some or that. No, you went there. It was almost the first thing you did. Let's go get donuts. It's too bad. But maybe someone will pick up the mantle and try to fill his shoes. I love stories like that and success stories like that. I remember when I was a kid, we used to have the popcorn man here in Oshawa. He had a little blue Chevy station wagon, and he had a hole through the roof with a pipe, and I think it had like a steam whistle on it or something. And he would drive around, and his front seat, I mean, back then there's nothing concerned with safety. His front seat would swivel around, and he would blow his horn a few times, and all us kids would come running out. And I think for like a couple pennies, you could get a bag of freshly popped popcorn with butter, and you thought you'd died and gone to heaven. Stuff like that just doesn't happen anymore. But it was great times. And so when you mentioned the Tiny Toms, it brought back all sorts of memories of stuff like that. Let's see, VE3RPN Scott.
VE3RPN for a final round. I'm mobile, so I'm doing some gear shifting. Interesting night there, and gee, it sounds like I missed a good thing. Commandant's coming tomorrow there, Jeanette. I guess I better practice my salute there and get it right. Anyway, I look forward to seeing you guys all tomorrow. Thanks for a great job, buddy. And we'll see the birthday girl hopefully tomorrow. Have a good night there. We'll be listening. I gotta go through the drive-thru and get a milkshake that melts in your hand and not in your mouth. 7:30. VE3RPN. We'll be listening.
Oh, Scotty, what night are you at Yuck Yucks?
Hey, I did that a few years back when I was in college, I guess, down in Coburg of all places. It was an extension course, and they challenged me to a Yuck Yucks that it just kind of opened up. And you know what? I used all my stuff at work, minus the names, of course, to protect the innocent. I think I could have stayed on stage for a good half hour anyway. Anyway, have a good night, buddy. VE3RPN.
Oh, very good. And that's what I like about this net, man. It's always fun. It's light, but it can be serious too. We've when you think about what we discussed tonight, we've gone into technical issues, operating issues, and just plain good old fun. VA3AG Aldo, and hopefully you haven't gone for dinner yet. We may have missed Aldo. I think his that sweet young lady that he lives with may have come and grabbed him by the collar and drug him upstairs for supper. So if you can hear me, Aldo, enjoy your supper. Let's see, VE3IGX Cam.
Okay, nothing else here. I'm glad you're going to be sending Jimmy an email, because I've been thinking about him the last few weeks. I mean, it's been a long while since we heard a peep out of him. We hope everything's all right. And with that, I'll say 73s to everybody online, and we'll see you shopping tomorrow morning. VE3LKS, VE3IGX.
Excellent, Cam. Yeah, looking forward to seeing all you guys tomorrow morning too, and it'll be fun. And gals, sorry, I shouldn't leave the gals out. they're more than welcome to. And actually, quite honestly, they're a lot better looking than you old guys are. Anyways, let's see. I'll take one last call for check-in. So if anyone's sitting there on the side, sort of questioning whether they should pick up the microphone, hit the PTT button, I say go for it, and give us your call sign. This is Laird VE3LKS. Okay, nothing heard. So with that, I will take, if anyone has any further questions or comments before Joe and I take over the frequency, now's your opportunity. Let's hear it.
Just wanted to say happy birthday to Jackie. I'm not sure if I remembered last time. V3IRB 73.
Okay, very good, Bob. And anybody else with any questions or comments?
And thank you, Laird, for what you do. You honestly, you are the greatest. I could not even come close to the diplomacy and the skills that you have handling this net. You're one in a million. All the best. Have a good evening, and all being well, we'll see you up at the farm. VA2RTP.
Well, thanks for the accolades, Jeffrey, but it takes a crowd to make it happen. So if it wasn't for everyone who checks in and puts their bean in the pot, as Pete likes to say, and contributes with the part of the conversation, it'd be pretty boring. You know what? I just don't like those nets where all you do is you check in once. You give your call sign, they say thanks for coming out, and that's it. At least here we get to express ourselves a bit and discuss wonderful things. And I find I learn something just about every night, so it's fun. Anyways, with that, I will say 73 to everybody. And Joe, if you've got that software lined up, we'll give it a go here.
There, Laird. If you haven't called up, let me know.
Oh yeah, I'm ready to go.
Left-hand side, down about halfway, it says estimate cable length, time domain reflectometry. Click on the time domain reflectometry, and another little window will come up.
Yes, sir, it did.
Top of that window, you'll see a little box with an arrow pointing down, and mine came up with polyethylene 0.66 in it. From there, I think you can select whatever cable you want in a drop-down window.
Oh, okay, very good. So you have to know what cable you're using, which is not a problem. And what's that 0.78? Is that the diameter that it is? Any idea what the decimal number is in brackets?
For RG213, and just a second here, I think RG213 is around 0.4. 0.6. I don't know. Maybe it's RG213. Maybe it is bigger. Maybe I'm trying to think of another cable I was measuring. I don't know there, but it stands to reason. I don't know, maybe someone's got a tape measure handy and a piece of cable nearby. Myself, I'm going to have to leave here. Not in a real hurry there. It's starting to rain here, and we're supposed to get some thunder boomers, so I got to disconnect an antenna outside. By the way, I was just testing a new end-send half-wave antenna here. And man, does it ever work sweet. It comes right in at all the major bands. It's kind of nice. Back to you.
Excellent, excellent. I've got an off-center fed dipole here that I'd like you to take up sometime and try out. I've never used it, and I forget who made it, but it's sitting in my garage, so if you ever want to have some fun with it, I appreciate it checking out. Okay, and now with this software, and I won't keep you long, Joe, Is this a constant? Like, is this constantly checking the whatever's attached, or is there something else you have to do to make it go?
With sweep, you can get the results after you do a sweep. That's how it works.
Oh, okay, very good. So you go into the refractometry, you choose your cable, and you come back out, you do a sweep, and then I'm assuming you just go back in and look at the results. Ah.
And it looks like that's velocity factor. If you, when you first just click on time domain reflectometry and that window comes up where you select the type of cable, velocity factor, that seems to be the number right underneath the type of cable you've connected, you've selected.
Okay, very good. Great instructions there, Joe. And well, let me just turn off my YouTube stream. If anyone's still on YouTube, let me see. Gary was on there, OGS, and Bill, VE3WBZ. Thank you guys for joining us this evening, and hope to hear from you guys on Monday night. 73s, everybody. Just end that.